What if the smile you grew up loving was hiding years of silent pain? What if the star who made you laugh every week was crying alone between scenes and no one cared? After over a decade of silence, Doc Shaw is finally telling the truth, and the names he's exposing. You won't believe who looked away while he disappeared right before our eyes. This is not just a story. This is a wake-up call. People used to think Doc Shaw just quietly stepped away from the spotlight. Another child star, lost with time. But now that he is 33, Doc is finally ready to talk, and what he is sharing is shaking the industry, especially when it comes to Tyler Perry and House of Pain. After more than 10 years of silence, Doc is opening up about what really happened behind the scenes. Despite the emotional pain and power struggles he had to face, and the names he brings up, you would never believe it. These are people fans trusted, people we thought were behind the success of one of the most iconic black sitcoms in America. But now, Doc Shaw is speaking out and finally revealing what really happened behind the scenes of House of Pain. Why did he, a rising young star with so much talent and promise, suddenly fade away from the spotlight? What caused his disappearance from Hollywood? And what was Tyler Perry's real role in Doc's journey, both his rise and his quiet fall? This story has been waiting to be told for years, and at last, we are hearing it straight from Doc himself, in a deeply emotional and honest episode. Doc Shaw opens up about the years he spent working at Tyler Perry Studios. For many fans, House of Pain was a weekly tradition, and Malik Payne, the role Doc played, was the heart of the show. He was the funny, bright, and lovable grandson who brought warmth to every scene, but behind those smiles and laughs, Doc was silently carrying pain that no one noticed, or perhaps chose not to see. This is not a sugar-coated interview. This is not just another celebrity story. Doc lays everything bare, the difficult truths, the personal sacrifices, and the battles he fought alone while the cameras kept rolling. He talks about the pressure to always look happy, to always entertain, even when he was emotionally drained. As a teenager, Doc was going through things most people his age could not imagine. But the industry did not stop to check on him. Number 1 paused to ask how he felt. Doc describes how, during filming, he began gaining weight. To fans, it may have seemed like a simple physical change. But for him, it was much deeper. The weight gain was a result of emotional burnout, stress, and isolation. He admits that food became a way to cope. The long hours, the non-stop schedule, and the constant expectation to be on took a toll on his mental and physical health. What made it worse was the lack of real support. Doc says no one from the production team stepped in to check on him. There were no serious conversations, no mental health resources, no timeouts offered even when his struggles became obvious. Instead, there were jokes made behind the scenes, whispers about how Malik had changed, but no one truly helped. No one genuinely cared. He also shares how that pain started to distance him from the people and the show he once loved. He had a complicated relationship with Tyler Perry, a man he once looked up to and admired. Doc is careful to say that he respects Tyler Perry for giving him an opportunity that changed his life. Without House of Pain, he admits, his career might not have taken off at all, but as the show grew more successful, things shifted, the pace became faster. The scripts were rushed. The pressure increased. And slowly, Doc started to feel like just another piece of a machine that kept moving whether he was okay or not. He recalls moments when he tried to speak up, when he asked for a short break to take care of his mental health, or even just to rest. But those conversations were brushed aside, or never made it to the top. He says, "I don't think Tyler ever hated me, but I do think that when I stopped being funny, I stopped being seen." The final blow came during the revival of House of Pain. Fans were excited to see Malik return, but something felt off. His character had changed. What once was a smart, kind-hearted young man had become a joke. The writing made Malik seem foolish and cartoonish. Doc felt humiliated. He could not recognize the role anymore, and more painfully, he could not recognize himself. Doc tried to share his feelings. He wrote a letter expressing how the changes made him feel boxed in and dehumanized. But once again, no one listened. No one responded. After that, Doc began to step back. He quietly pulled away from cast interviews. He declined promotional events, and eventually, he vanished from the screen altogether. The silence that followed was loud, and what hurt most was that Tyler Perry, the man who had given him a start, never reached out, not once. No message, no phone call, nothing. For someone who had spent years working on Tyler's sets, someone who saw Tyler as a mentor. That silence said more than words ever could. "I realized," Doc says, "I was never seen as a person. I was seen as a product. And once that product stopped being useful, I was no longer needed." But Doc makes it clear this is not a story about bitterness or revenge. It is a call for accountability. It is about making sure that young actors, especially young black actors, are not pushed aside or forgotten once the fame fades. It is about protecting those who work behind the smiles we see on screen. Doc Shaw's journey is a reminder that not everything you see in the spotlight is real, that behind the laughter, there can be pain. Behind the characters, there are people. And when those people speak, they deserve to be heard. We will also take a look at how fans are reacting, what people are saying online, and the important questions that are now being asked about how young black actors are treated in Hollywood, because at its core, Doc Shaw's story is not only about his personal experience, it points to a much larger issue that has affected many young stars over the years. His voice is opening the door to a conversation that is long overdue, but to truly understand the weight of what he is saying today, we need to go back to where it all started. Long before he was known as Malik Payne on House of Payne, Laramie Doc Shaw was already stepping into the spotlight. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, Doc grew up in a close-knit community filled with culture, family values, and creative energy. Even as a child, he stood out. While most kids his age were riding bikes, playing tag, and going to school, Doc was already booking modeling jobs. His natural charm, warm smile, and confident presence made him hard to miss. It did not take long for people to realize that Doc had something special. He had the kind of energy that lit up a room even before he said a word. By the time he was a teenager, his talents had caught the attention of casting directors and producers. He quickly began transitioning from modeling to acting, landing small roles that helped him gain experience and build confidence in front of the camera. But everything changed in 2006. At just 14 years old, Doc was cast as Malik Payne in Tyler Perry's House of Payne. It was a breakout role that would make him a household name across the country. The show was not just another sitcom, it was a cultural moment for black families in America. It mixed humor with serious topics like addiction, family struggles, and generational pain. And at the heart of it all was Doc, the witty, lovable grandson who brought warmth and laughter into every scene. From that moment on, Doc Shaw became more than just a young actor. He became a symbol of hope and positivity, proof that a young black boy could shine on screen and still be real. But behind that success, another story was unfolding. But everything changed in 2006. At just 14, Doc was cast as Malik Payne in House of Payne. This was not just another TV show. It meant something deeper. For many black families, it was a cultural anchor. The show balanced funny moments with heavy topics like addiction, cheating, and family trauma, and Doc, as the smart and lovable grandson, became the heart of it. People tuned in every week to see him. Doc was more than just a child actor. He became a symbol, a strong, positive image of a young black boy trying to make sense of the world with heart and humor. From the outside, things looked great. But then something shifted. By season 6, fans noticed changes. Malik was on screen less and looking very different. Whispers began. Was Doc sick? Was he being pushed out? Slowly, he faded from public view. When House of Payne ended its original run in 2012, there was no farewell, no new shows, no red carpets, nothing, just silence. And that silence made fans wonder, did something go wrong with Tyler Perry? Was there drama behind closed doors? Had Hollywood done to Doc what it has done to so many other young stars? For years, there were no answers until now. In a recent podcast interview, Doc finally spoke up, and what he shared goes far beyond his personal story. He talked about a system that made him feel invisible and voiceless, a system that used him, then left him behind. And just when you think you have heard it all, Doc drops one final truth, a moment on set that changed everything and pushed him to leave for good. But we will get to that soon. First, let us talk about something that affected him deeply: his body. When Doc joined the show at 14, he was still growing, still learning who he was. But quickly, he was not just playing Malik Payne, he was Malik, on and off camera. That pressure took a toll. Over the years, fans started noticing his body changing. He was gaining weight. The fun, energetic teen they loved was starting to look different, and, unfortunately, the internet noticed too. People made cruel jokes. Mean comments spread online. and they forgot there was a real person behind the character. In the podcast, Doc explained why he was battling depression, and food became his way of coping. And sadly, no one in the business stepped in to help. I was gaining weight because I did not know how to deal with the loneliness, pressure, and anxiety that came with being famous, Doc Shaw admitted. By the time he was in his late teens, he felt emotionally drained. He was stuck in a system that praised him on camera but ignored his well-being behind the scenes. According to Doc, no one offered help, there were no check-ins, no support for mental health, and no one asking how the young cast was holding up. He recalled finishing a scene, going back to his trailer, and just sitting there completely alone. No one ever asked, "Are you okay?" What hurt the most was how his visible changes were noticed but never seriously addressed. There were whispers, awkward stares, and inside jokes about Malik's new look, but no one from the team cared enough to check on him with honesty. The struggle he faced was not just emotional, it affected his body, too. He explained that he started stress eating to cope. The long hours, the constant pressure to stay funny and lovable, and the heavy expectations made him eat more and isolate himself. The weight gain only made things worse when the public began judging his appearance. Fans, who once supported him, began turning against him. Headlines started painting him as a troubled star. Casting calls slowed down. And like many others in Hollywood, he started getting ignored. In this industry, you are treated like a star until you are no longer useful. But Doc did not spiral out of control. Instead, he made a powerful choice. He chose to step away to heal, to rebuild, and to take control of his life again. Quietly, he began working with a personal therapist and a holistic health coach. During his break from acting, he changed his eating habits, focused on mindfulness, and lost over 60 pounds in 1 year. But even more powerful than the weight loss was the emotional healing. For the first time in years, Doc was able to look at his life without the shadow of Malik Payne or Tyler Perry Studios. It was not just his body that was changing, he was reclaiming his voice. With that new confidence, he decided to speak out not only for himself but for all young black actors, who are celebrated when useful but forgotten once they no longer fit the mold. And that is where things get even more serious. In his interview, Doc spoke openly about working at Tyler Perry's massive empire and why he felt abandoned when it mattered most. Let us be honest, when people hear the name Tyler Perry, they think of money, power, and huge success. Tyler Perry Studios is one of the biggest black-owned production companies in the world. For a young actor like Doc, being cast by Perry was not just an opportunity, it was a dream come true. In his recent interview, Doc clearly said he had deep respect for Tyler Perry. He even called him a trailblazer and credited House of Pain for launching his career. But things changed. Over time, that respect turned into confusion and then into disappointment. Doc explained the difference. Giving someone a platform is not the same as supporting them once they are on it. As the show became more successful, the atmosphere on set shifted, scripts were rushed, pressure increased, and there was less room for care or understanding. Doc felt like just another gear in the machine. No one seemed to notice or care that he was dealing with depression and burnout. He tried to speak up. He asked producers about taking a short break, about focusing on his mental health, but those conversations were ignored or never made it to Tyler Perry. Doc said, "I do not think he hated me, but I do believe that when I stopped being funny, I stopped being seen." A major breaking point came with the revival of House of Pain. When Malik returned, fans were surprised, but the character had changed. He was no longer the smart, determined kid. Instead, he was turned into a joke. Doc hated that. He felt the writers stripped away everything that made Malik inspiring. "Malik was no longer someone I knew," Doc said, "and honestly, I didn't recognize myself anymore either." That was the final straw. He tried to express his concerns through a letter, explaining how the new version of Malik made him feel boxed in and dehumanized. No one responded to the letter. Soon after, Doc stopped showing up for interviews. He declined event invites. Eventually, he disappeared completely from the cast. Even more painful, Tyler Perry never reached out. No phone call, no text, no message. That silence spoke louder than words. For someone who spent his youth on Tyler Perry's sets and looked up to him as a mentor, it was heartbreaking. Doc said, "I realized then I was never a person. I was just a resource. And when I stopped being valuable, I stopped existing." But Doc made it clear, this is not about revenge. It is about accountability. He wants to make sure other young actors do not go through the same emotional pain. Now, he encourages them to speak up, seek help, and walk away if the system is no longer serving them. And here is the surprising part. Doc did not just walk away from acting. He moved toward something greater. Most people assume child stars disappear because they could not handle fame. But that is not what happened with Doc Shaw. His exit was not the end of the story. It was the start of a new chapter. This was not just a new chapter. This was not just a new chapter. It was a whole new life. One built on healing, learning, and legacy. Doc Shaw left behind the bright lights of House of Pain, not because he was defeated, but because he chose himself. Most people in his position never get that far. But Doc made his health, both mental and physical, his top priority. Even his biggest fans were shocked when, at just 24, he decided to go to college. While others chased fame and more red carpets, Doc went looking for peace, knowledge, and strength. "I didn't want to work for someone forever," he said in an interview. So, he began studying media strategy and business. He wanted to understand how the industry worked, not just as an actor, but as a creator. He wanted to tell meaningful stories, take control of his path, and build something of his own. And here's where it gets truly inspiring. Doc didn't just vanish after enrolling in school. During that time, he launched a media platform focused on real stories, honest, raw, and rooted in the Black experience. No fake drama. No shallow characters, just truth. He also partnered quietly with nonprofit organizations that support the mental health of young men of color, especially those in the entertainment world. Not therapy, not praise that gave him peace. Fame didn't heal me. Therapy helped, community helped. But knowing I was more than just a character on TV, that saved me. He made it clear. He is not bitter, not angry, and he is not seeking revenge on Tyler Perry. He is free. And in a world where young Black entertainers are often chewed up by the fame machine and discarded when they are no longer profitable, Doc Shaw's story is a quiet rebellion. He did not crash. He did not fall apart. He got up and he grew. But his most powerful moment came at the end of his interview. He looked into the camera and said, "Just know, your story doesn't end here. If you feel ignored, forgotten, or can still stand? And so can I." Doc Shaw's journey is not just a trip down memory lane about House of Pain. It is about self-worth. It is about finding the courage to walk away from a system that no longer sees you. As the cameras kept rolling, we laughed with him, celebrated him, and unknowingly watched him fall apart inside. His silence all those years was not weakness. It was part of the plan. It was how he healed. And now that he is speaking, his voice is strong, clear, and filled with purpose. Doc Shaw is no longer just Malik at 33. He is a storyteller, a speaker, a business owner, and an advocate for mental health. He walked away from one of the biggest entertainment empires to find his peace. And now, he is using his voice to speak up in a world that often values success over well-being. Doc, so what can we learn from Doc's story? That the entertainment world still overlooks mental health. That fame does not last, but identity does. That young Black men deserve more than applause, they deserve care. And that walking away is not a failure. Sometimes, it is the bravest thing you can do. If Doc's story touched your heart, share it. Talk about what it means. Leave a comment. Did you grow up watching House of Pain? Did you notice when Malik changed? What do you think about Tyler Perry's silence in all this? And most importantly, if you have ever felt alone or silenced, just remember, you are not alone. To keep getting stories that go deeper than the headlines, hit the bell, like and subscribe. Stay thoughtful, stay strong, and never be afraid to speak your truth. Until next time.